Hello, my soul brothers and soul sisters. I'm Ron Smith, and this is the Dr. Ron Smith Investigating Show, where we separate the real from fake, the fact from fiction, and give you the winner's edge. And sometimes we're able to turn your water into wine. Today's guest is Mr. Ron Weber, and this is episode 29. And I'm excited because Ron is here. And Ron, how you doing today?
Doing good. Water no, I didn't know Jesus was interviewing me. That's pretty good.
Well, you know, I know the man don't know the man. I put it that way. So Ron, what brings you in this afternoon? I'm excited because I hear that you have a new project coming out in 2024, and this would be the initial introduction of you to all our viewers here at SKST. So, Ron, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm in the event business, in the music business. So I have a trade publication that covers the business of fairs and festivals and events and amusement parks and things like that. We're actually the largest trade publication in the country. So have you ever seen a list of, say, state fairs, the largest ones by attendance? We put that out every year and it gets picked up by newspapers all over the place. But we thought, you know, we do stories, obviously written and both online, and we have an old school magazine. Actually, we went backwards. We went from being online first to usually it's the other way around, but went backwards. I say we're regressing in a way, but I thought it'd be neat to have a podcast where we can interview some of these figures, amusement park people or fair managers or issues that are facing the thing, or carnival owners, or things that people really don't get to hear a lot. And it'd be a really, really interesting hour or so to get to know some of these people and hear their thoughts on things.
What would be one of the most fascinating things people would learn from your podcast that they wouldn't know? Because everybody goes to the fair. You know, I'm partial to the fried, Snickers and Oreos and all that stuff. And I tease my wife about the funnel cakes and stuff like that.
Right.
So, but what a life of a fair person and some of the people that you interview, what would be one of the most entertaining, figures that you can bring on your show?
Well, there's just so many. I mean, the fair managers themselves are going to be interesting, but the carnival owners, the people who own the carnivals and things, that they have stories left for a day. I mean, the podcast might be like 6-7 hours to get all the information. But it's funny. One guy I'm thinking about interviewing, as a matter of fact, I heard it on Joe Rogan podcast the other day. They were talking not specifically about him, but kind of about them. He got started in the business with his grandfather. His father. Excuse me. His father used to have like what they call the wrestling show or an at show. So they would wrestle just any comer. It's sort of how professional wrestling got. That's what they were talking about.
Right.
And they would just set up the ring and they go in and they just challenge anyone to wrestle you, or sometimes they would wrestle like bears or crazy things like that. But that's how they got started. I don't know everything because I'm going to interview them, but that's essentially how they got started in the business. And then I guess he expanded more to own rides or other shows or things like that. But it's fascinating. I was listening to Joe Rogan. I was like, that's exactly what the guy I'm going to interview. He's going to talk a little bit about that.
Okay.
History or something like that.
I worked with a guy when I was doing some work overseas, and he called himself a carny.
Okay.
And I just thought that was unique. And so what is a carny?
What is a carny?
Yeah.
It would be a person who works at a carnival or works with a carnival or something like that. Yeah, it's a short term. Sometimes it's some people don't like it, and some other people embrace it. Depends on who you're talking to, what they're discussing. I have some writers that work for me that didn't grow up in the business, and they say, do I say carny or should I say this, or they're not sure. It sounds bad, but it's really not a pejorative for most people. Yeah.
I wondered the fascinating thing about him because he had a nomadic type lifestyle.
Sure.
Is that one of the features that you will bring out a part of the?
Yeah, I mean, I think you might call it nomadic, but like certain carnivals, they've been going to the same fairs for 30 years, 20, 30 years. They grew up with the people who run the event, and they know their kids, and their kids know their kids, and every week in the June 15th to the 25th, they're in this place, and that's where they are every single year. It's like having multiple timeshares, I guess. And you're always spending the same weeks in the same places. So are you really just, you're not kind of roaming around really in a sense. I think that's an interesting way to think about it. You're not like, just wandering the country hoping to find a place to go, but most of the carnivals. But you're following a route or you're going places year after year. So if you work with a fire department, you know, you might see them buy a new truck because of some of the things that they've bought over the years. You might see them, you know, buy various things over the years, or like I said, your kids grow up or reach milestones. So it's interesting. It's like, you know, people, I'm from the New York, New Jersey area, and a lot of people say, oh, you live in New York. Oh, how exciting. You must roam around. But most people in New York, their whole world is a couple of blocks. You know, they have their dry cleaner here and their grocery there. So it's, you know, some of it's perception, what you think about. Like, well, that must be crazy. Wandering the country, you're not really wandering the country. You're going to the same places pretty much year after year.
One of the things that I know that the carnival stops here in our location, Mount Trashmore. Seems like every year at the same time. So it's a schedule that you just brought out. One of the things that I want to talk about your background and how did you get into this genre of entertainment?
Mm-hmm. I came down here for college.
Okay. Can you?
I went to William and Mary.
Okay.
And I got my MBA there as well. And I was working for the Leukemia Society, doing fundraising and things like that. And I remembered it was frustrating because you had to do these crazy things like celebrity waiter dinner. You were just bothering people, calling them up and saying, hey, will you come and do this, or making them buy things they don't want to buy, or give money to things they didn't really want to give to. And what kind of interested me the most were events where you would raise money, but you wouldn't be like a nuisance, you know? So I did an outdoor music, like a Friday, what do they used to call those things? Those Friday after work party type things. And people like to go to them, right? They're smiling, they hand you money. And I kind of remembered that my church back in New Jersey years ago used to have a carnival. And I remembered, you know, I don't know if they read the budget or something one of the weeks or something, but they would say, you know, bingo would be the #1 fundraiser, but then the fair, the carnival would be the #2 fundraiser. Wow. I said, well, they used to raise some money from that. How did they do that? Because I was investigating other things.
Right.
So I went to visit a company, and that happened to be at the Hampton Coliseum. And excuse me, gotta get a little water.
Sure.
Asked them how it worked, and you know, you had to find a place to go. And I called Tower Mall actually at the time. There's a lady that worked there, was on our board, and I guess they had been trying to go there for a while, the carnival. Okay. But they couldn't, and you know, I just sat with them for a few minutes, and I was like, oh yeah, I can get Tower Mall, no problem. They're like, we can't go there, you know, we've called, but I said, I'm pretty sure I can. So I walked back across the street. It was at the Reed Commercial Building in Hampton, and called Susie Waters was her name, and I was like, Susie, can we have a carnival at the thing to raise money for the Leukemia Society? She's like, sure. I said, okay. So I went back across the street. I said, okay, you're all set. They're like, you got to get permission. You got to ask it. I said, I did. It's all set. So, you know, it was interesting. But we raised some money, and we did a few of those things and raised some money. And
so you were the rainmaker.
Yeah, I mean, finding locations is important.
Yes.
Finding good locations is important. But I learned a lot about the fair business in general from them. It was like growing up in New Jersey, New York area, at least city area. There's not a lot of like county fairs or state fairs. There's some now that I know that, but back then it was just mostly like carnivals, church carnivals, things like that.
Right.
So learning about the fair industry and the fair business was really, you know, interesting to me. It was very, very interesting to me. So I worked a little bit with that, and then I started my own business running events and doing things like that. And then later on, I started the trade publication I talked to you about, it's a amusement warehouse or carnival warehouse, amusement park warehouse. We have a magazine that we mail out, and also online, which is where we have the most readership. And then I also own a little ticketing company that does electronic ticketing for events and things like that. So
were you a business major at William and Mary, or was it
undergrad? I majored in religion and government.
Oh, okay.
Double major, and then I got my MBA.
So your fascination with the whole process of the carnival is what drew you in?
Yeah, in a way. I remember when I was at William and Mary, I was trying to do a carnival, have a fundraiser, do something. I can't remember the cause, but I couldn't figure out how to do it. Like, how do you call carnival? You know, like, you go look at the yellow pages and say, "Oh, let me find my local carnival" or something like that. You know, it's not that easy. So I was like, I know they existed, but I didn't know where they existed. So but like a carnival is part of a fair. When you start to get into the county fairs, the state fairs, and things like that, a carnival's part of it. Like they're a big part of it. They're a big revenue generator. Just like a mall. Macy's would be a big thing. Macy's is not the mall.
Right.
The mall's the mall, but Macy's is a big part of it. So a carnival's a big part of a fair. Just like their entertainer, their music would be, or their stages and things like that. So it's a wide ranging set of entertainment for a fair.
So if someone was interested in doing what you do, you would suggest, how would they get started?
I have no idea. How would they get started? Working for a fair or working at a fair, an event, is a different story. I kind of like have my fingers in a lot of different things, so I'm sort of a
Jack of all
case.
trades.
Yeah, it's weird. I run events. I have trade publication. I do a lot of different things. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend going that way. But running events or being involved in events, when you think about it, is such a huge business, and there's not a lot of schooling for it. I thought about this a lot. As a matter of fact, I was at William & Mary at the football game a few weeks ago, and I saw one of the business deans there, and I said, it's a big business that nobody that I know of is really taking advantage of coursework wise. When you think about parades, you think about all the events that go on. It kind of gets melded into sports a little bit, but it's not really the same. It's not venue management. Running an event is different than running a venue. So there should be some sort of coursework or some sort of. I know, like our trade publication, our trade associations have. You can get your certified fair executive, but is it really coursework? Not really. When you think about it, every city, a lot of colleges, organizations have event coordinators or event planners or event whatever.
Right. There's
so many different events all over the place, and there's no training for it. When you really think about it, how to make a budget for it. I think Tidewater Community, it's been a while now, 10 or 15 years ago, was looking at doing some sort of coursework in that, and they brought in somebody from, I think, Ohio State to kind of go over the coursework or how it worked. I guess they have people that are specialized in starting new courses and things like that. But,
right.
Because we were batting around, like people were saying, what's the most important thing when you're running an event? And people are like, the dates, the this thing, the that thing. I said, it's the purpose. Like, am I doing it because I want to generate tourism or awareness? Am I doing it because I want to raise money? Am I doing it because I want to make money? Am I doing it? You have to have an end, right? The teleology we say in religion is the end. That's the most important. Like, what's the purpose?
Right.
What's the purpose? Why are you doing this? And then you can approach it with more laser focus, because you have an idea of what you're doing. So if you're just trying to make a big party and raise awareness, you might be frivolous and spend a lot of money on things, but it's important. If you're trying to make money from it, you get to say, is that extra money I'm spending really going to make any sense?
Right.
In the end, am I going to lose all the money that I'm trying to make from doing the thing? So it's important you look at the purpose of the event when you're running.
So you've been doing this for a while now.
Yes.
What would you tell your younger self getting into the business? What would you tell yourself to, educate yourself on prior to getting into what you're doing now?
I don't know that I do a whole lot different, honestly. I think the curiosity and the sort of not knowing when I first started was interesting, because I wasn't scared of anything. I didn't know better, so I would just make a phone call or do something. And now I might be like, oh, that doesn't make sense because they're already doing business with this one, and that one's doing business with that one. So I don't know. I don't know that I changed a lot, in all honesty.
Okay. We're talking to Mr. Ron Weber, and this has been a very exciting conversation. We're going to take a break, and we can come back because the last question, I really want to get a little more, about the young Ron Weber when he first saw his first project, and what was that experience like. We're going to take a break. We're back with Mr. Ron Weber. And
I
Ron,
just have to interject one time. Why are we talking in the past tense about young Ron Weber? Am I old now? Is that what you're implying?
more mature, more wiser, and more confident than he was. And so we're going to talk about that first event that he did at William and Mary. Do you remember?
What?
We
We didn't actually do an event because I couldn't find a carnival, but
okay.
the first events I really did were for the Leukemia Society, running
Okay.
special
And that was
events,
where?
fundraisers. You know, it was so unmemorable. I don't even know if I remember. The ones I remember are the ones, because you kind of inherited events that were going on for years. Like I remember they had celebrity waiters, and you had to get some poor guy, and he would have to sell tickets to his own table and wait on them. It was like, you know, I mean, I felt bad for even calling them. I know they want to help, and I know, you know, but it was just so not fun, you know, to do. It was
So
tough.
what did you change to enhance that from to what you're doing? I guess to make it more, I guess, exciting for everybody.
Yeah, I tried to do events that people enjoyed going to. You know, after work party, I did one in Williamsburg. Those were fun. We did some like bingo. We raised some money from bingo. We raised some money from. I just tried to do different events, but you know, the people in Nashville are kind of looking at me like I had 8 heads. They're like, "What are you doing? Do the celebrity waiter dinner." You know, that's the thing. And I was like, "Yeah, it's not really that fun." And we're not. The revenue was declining year over year. Excuse me, I got a little hoarseness today.
Mhm.
So yeah, I just tried to do events that I thought people would like and do, and it was a good experience. I mean, it was fun, but it was very, I felt very, you know, boxed in. It's kind of like restraints, you know, what you can do. And then I guess the last straw was when I did a couple of carnivals, fairs, you know, and then I learned a lot about that business. I said, oh, that sounds really interesting to me. So here we are.
So for projecting out to 2024, what's the plan?
What's the plan? Depends upon the business for my purse, for like marketing and events and things like that. For events, I'm a little bit nervous about like spending, consumer spending. I write a lot about that in our columns, and then I do a lot of advertising for events. I do media buying and things like that for you know, quite a few events. And I'm a little nervous because, you know, COVID hit, and then people were excited to spend money, and
Right.
came out. Prices have risen, you know, but so have, you know, the costs have risen too. So it's not just, you know, hiking the prices. It's warranted to a certain extent, but I think some have pushed it a little bit too much. I always say events, especially like fairs and festivals, we're a volume business, right?
Right.
You want to get 5 people at $1 rather than one person at $5.
Right.
So, you know, if you can get that place that's revenue neutral, you want to do it with the most number of people. So, you know, I get scared that, you know, if a day now, if it's $15 to get in, and then it's $40 for a wristband, you're $55. Are they going to come more than once? Because, you know, some of these communities you go to are relatively small communities. Yeah, a wise man who was from Union, South Carolina, Daryl Wade, he taught me about small towns, because he said, I want those people to come every single day at my fair, and I have to make it affordable enough so they can come every single day.
Right.
And because you always find more money, you know, you find a few more dollars. I mean, the first time you go, you're the most flush, right? You have the most money. The second time you go, you might have a little less. And the third time, you know, you're trying to get quarters out of the couch to, you know, get enough money together to do things. I remember when I was a kid, my church used to have a carnival, and that's the way it was. You know, first time I went, okay, could do everything. Second time, third time, I was scratching together, you know, a couple of dollars to go ride my favorite ride or two, you know, but I went the third time and I spent some money. So, you know, that's really important, I think. And nowadays with people being busy, and the more expensive it is, the longer they want to stay too. So that's why people get compacted into just Saturday, you know, because Saturday's the longest day, and there's a lot of people. It's also the busiest day. So now, do you suffer on the weekdays? Do you suffer on Fridays? Those are things, you know, we have to think about going forward for next year. Because I think I saw it a little bit at the end of the year. There was a little bit of an economic impact with a little bit of a squeeze for the dollars. You know, where are you going to get the money from, and where's it coming from? I think we could still win it in this industry, because I think we're relatively affordable compared to a lot of other things, and you know, people don't have to travel or go too far to do it. It's not like a trip to Disney where you're going to save up the whole year. So
Right.
I think even in recession, our industry does pretty well, fair and festival industry. So I'm hopeful that it's well, but I think we need to tweak some things to be price sensitive where we need it.
Is there anything coming up? I guess what I'm looking for, like anything coming up in the spring, anything coming up in the summer and fall. Do you have anything events scheduled within I guess the 757 Hampton Roads area?
Hampton Roads area, honestly, I don't do a whole lot in the Hampton Roads area. I work a little bit with Chesapeake Jubilee.
Okay.
And a couple of things, but mostly smaller things. Most of the things I do are in other places, the larger things.
You said something earlier that your festival is part of the carnival, correct?
The fair, yes.
The
yes,
fair.
yes.
So
no, the carnival is part of the fair.
Okay, explain that whole dynamics, because I guess my thing is one and the same. It is not. That's not true.
No, yeah, people use the word interchangeably, but a
Right.
fair, a county fair or state fair, is an event. It's a place to go. So it has a lot of times it has amusement rides, it has entertainment, it has judging or some sort of 4-H or agricultural component to it. It's got exhibits, food, all kinds of things. It's like a mall, I guess, in a sense, in that you have different vendors or different stores or different places to go.
Right.
Again, the midway or the carnival area is a big part of it. It's an anchor per se, but it's not the whole thing. So.
And that's what you do. So basically, your part of it is what?
The whole thing. I run
Oh,
large events. Yeah.
okay, excellent. So if
Just the carnival seems to be the most
I used
fascinating for a lot of people.
I used to be in walking distance from Chesapeake Jubilee.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So what other event that I would be aware of that you actually have a imprint on?
Rolling. I've worked with the Ohio State Fair, the New York
Okay.
State Fair, the Florida State Fair. I worked at for a couple of years as a consultant. I do all kinds of Upper South Carolina State Fair in South Carolina. I do a lot of big Orange County Fair in New York. I run that whole thing. So.
Wow. So you are a person that if somebody was trying to put up on something like that, you would be the consultant for.
Yeah, a lot of times I get hired. It depends on which part of it. Sometimes I run the whole event. Sometimes I just do marketing. Sometimes I'll just do marketing for maybe a client of mine is the carnival company, let's say, and they'll do a portion of it. So, or sometimes I just do ticketing. It really depends on the event, what we do, and how we do it.
Okay. So we have about 7 more minutes to go, and I want to give our audience what are your plans for your podcast, and what's the concept and.
We're going to interview people in the industry and get some of that history of their experiences and what they're doing. We're going to do, I hope, some issues that are important to the industry today. So maybe we'll have some roundtables or some discussion with pricing or things like that. Or entertainment buying is a big topic nowadays because it's getting very, very expensive, very, very difficult to book bands and book, especially headliner bands. There's been a movement with a lot of places to go to sort of tribute bands or things like that instead of booking the headliners, which is just so expensive you can't make money with it. It's difficult, but they draw a lot of people,
Right?
And you have a lot of revenue streams. You bring them there. You have your gate. You might charge for the concert ticket itself. You have food, and you have amusement rides, and all those things contribute to it. So maybe you can make it a little bit, but it's not easy to do those sorts of things. But I want to get maybe some concessionaires that sell some unique products or something like that, how they get started. And there's always a fascinating story. Entertainers, people that do entertainment at fairs and things like that. Some people have been on America's Got Talent or something else. So there's so many stories. It would really be good. It should be good.
Do you have some people in mind that you can give us a little tease of, what we can?
I do, but I haven't talked to everybody yet. So I hate to say
Okay.
something and then I get them. I'll look like a failure.
Not Ron. So I guess 2024 going to be a very busy time for you, and I know that the concept of your podcast is still fluid. Should I put it that way?
Yeah, I think it's maybe some of the details, but I think I got a pretty good idea of what to do. There's just so much, where you start. It's the big thing.
if you were assigned to build a curriculum for a university
Mhm.
to be for an entrepreneur who wanted to do what you do or put on a carnival or a fair, what would be some of the elements that you would put in that curriculum?
Well, purpose, like we discussed last time, budgeting is really important. Really important. I go over. I go over all the time. I call it my magic formula. It's not really magic. It's not really, but it's a formula because you have revenue stream, right? You have a gate admission, so it costs so much to get in, and then you get possibly a portion of the rides that a person does. So if they spend X number of dollars, and you get a percentage of it, and then maybe you might get some money out of the food or something else. So you can calculate, right, with a reasonable certainty. If a person comes through the gate, this is what you're going to get from them, right? It's not just necessarily the gate admission, $5 or $10, whatever it is, whatever the number is. So now you have that. Now, when you're booking entertainment or doing some other things, you can do a little math and say, okay, I'm going to book this thing. It costs $10,000. I get $10 from every person that walks through the gate. Can I get 1,000 people? Are 1,000 people interested in that portion of it?
Right.
And then you can make a decision based upon that. This band I'm going to book, I need this many people to break even. Is that a reasonable expectation, or am I way off? It does not make any sense. So, the business and budgeting and doing things like that's really important. Logistics, of course, is super important too. Making sure it's safe, making sure you have the proper things in place to run a good event and be interesting and relevant and everything else you need to be.
Sound like you'd be a good adjunct professor, actually.
Right.
Teaching this course.
Yeah, I think it would be a terrific course. I really do. I think it'd be so important because there's so many jobs for it. It's crazy they don't have more of it. I'm flabbergasted they don't, honestly.
It's amazing that you're not coming from a formal business background. Everything that we've been talking about is actually being business oriented. Did you ever thought of yourself as being a ringmaster, putting all this stuff together?
Yeah, in a way you are. I mean, you're coordinating. You're prioritizing. That's when people say, "Well, how do you do all those things at once?" I think the most important skill you can have is being able to prioritize. Saying, "This is vital and it's got to be done right away. This can wait. This is just a crazy person asking me some question." So being able to, when they come at you with 20 things, being able to prioritize those 20 things, to know what's critical and what's not critical. Because otherwise, your brain will just short circuit, right? You say, "What are the plant? Go over here, let the dog out, do all those things." You can't do them all at once, right? You can only do a certain number of things, and you have to be able to pick out what's critical, what's most important, and prioritize them and go forward. And you may come.
Awesome. Did you have any mentor that you saw that you said that basically I like the way this person was doing this, and this is some of the things that I.
In the fair business, there was a guy, Rick Frenette, who's still around. He ran the Ohio State Fair when I worked there, and I always admired. And I'm not good at it to this day because I tend to do everything myself. But he was a great manager. He had a good team. He trusts his people to do things, but he was very smart about the business of fairs and doing things like that. And he's a great guy. He ran the Ohio State Fair, he ran the Utah State Fair, he ran the Wisconsin State Fair. And he worked at the Minnesota State Fair, which is where a lot of people came from. State fairs in the country, but Rick is a great guy. And I learned a lot from him, for sure, amongst a dozen other people. But yeah, he's one that stands out.
Awesome, Ron. One of the things that, how can somebody get in contact with you?
They can't. They have to do like I do with the carnival. They never find me.
Okay.
Innovative marketing is one of my companies. That probably the easiest way. Innovativemarketing.org. There's a lot about the innovative ticketing. Is our ticketing company, and then carnivalwarehouse.com or musicparkwarehouse.com are our trade publications. So.
Awesome. This is Ron Weber, one of the most entertaining guests I had for 2023. Thank you for your attention. Our time is up. We thank you for yours. Until next time, peace and blessings.